Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this APPI Focus on ARV Learn by Doing webinar. Today, we will be talking about, and I consider this to be rather significant because taming the dragon of ignorance about psi really gets to what APPI is all about, which is education. And we need to educate society so that indeed we can help move society through the inevitable chaos of a major paradigm shift. The consciousness paradigm shift is coming, it's on its way, and we would like to be, and we are, part of minimizing the chaos. At least that's how we see what's going on. And ignorance is, in fact, part of the problem right now. So I like this graphic. Found it on Google. We're trying to find out if it's copyrighted or not. Crystal is doing that. But there are lots of dragons with many different kinds of personality, and we're taking on the dragon of ignorance about psi. So here's the outline for today. We will begin giving a discussion about what ARV is, and this will be for newbies and oldbies as a review. And then we will get into the topic of this presentation, which is Taming the Dragon of Ignorance. And then we will do a feedback session. I've given the coordinate before. Sorry, I didn't put it here, but it was in the emails. And then we'll do a new prediction. This is the learn by doing part, both the feedback and then a new prediction, which will be the remote viewing and the analysis judging. And this will be a prediction for a month or more. So obviously we won't get the feedback for over a month. Okay, what is associative remote viewing? Let's look at it first in linear time, just sort of as what you do. And I frankly think it's relatively simple to understand once you accept, and this is the problem a lot of people have, once you accept that you can gather information from the future. So in linear time, you start where your tasking is very simple once you accept that this is possible, and people who've been around even for a relatively short time now know it is. And that is to describe and sketch your feedback target, which you're going to see in the future out here. So back here, you're gaining information from the future is the simplest way to look at it. Now, in this session, this is when the remote viewer views the target that he or she will see, fully experience during the feedback session. So simple to understand the concept. Now, the feedback session, that is when, in fact, the actual feedback target is known and seen. So remote viewing sessions always have a target, and almost all the time, it's frankly, when you get good at this, not necessary. But then if you don't get feedback of some sort, you never really know how well you did, and it limits the learning. In ARV, you always get a feedback target. So you know that, you know you're going to see one eventually, and that's what you entangle together. Now, the judging session is what comes in between. The judging session is something which makes this useful. In even standard remote viewing without the association, and I'm about to tell you what the associative part is, you usually do it with something in mind. For example, during the military days, they might view how well the hostages were doing during the Iran-Contra event. Okay, and they did eventually get some feedback on that, but much later. You can view whatever you want. In associative remote viewing, we are asking specific binary questions, which are basically yes, no. If we do sports, they might be team A versus team B, or we generally do over under a line in sports, but they're always binary. So guess what? Since it's binary, it makes sense that there would be two, and notice this word, possible targets. Guess what? One of the possible targets is associated with yes. The other possible target is associated with no. So the answer to that question, which you'll know in between the analysis, judging, and the feedback. So the event occurs in linear time. In here, you get to take action on it because you're doing your analysis and judging before the event occurs. So the actual target will always be what the actual yes or no correct answer is, period. So the feedback target will be associated with yes or no based on what actually happens, period. That's associative remote viewing in linear time. Now, let's look at it. I want to give a definition of what precognition is. And this is sort of my definition. This is knowledge of something in advance of its occurrence through means not accepted by society's paradigm of time. So when we're sitting here, we are doing precognition, pre-knowing of what's going to happen in the future. That's not appreciated by society that you can do that, because in fact, this reverses cause and effect. And if you think of the feedback session, it's retrocausally influencing your remote viewing session. And there are now scientific meetings, conferences, which are called retrocausality, where more and more scientists, but still a tiny fraction, are getting involved in that. Okay, so predicting random numbers, doing what we're doing are all examples of that. I want to give you one other perspective on this. In linear time, we talked about remote viewing, judging is in between, and then precognition. It's really important to kind of get this deep down in your gut. Precognition really begins with the feedback session. It really is about the retrocausality of sharing information, connecting with the remote viewing session, entangling with the remote viewing session. Because this is where you know the truth. The truth is known at the feedback time. That's when you see the actual target. And what we're doing is purposeful precognition, and it indeed begins with your feedback session. Now, precognition occurs, I think, more often than most of us realize. In fact, I'm seeing myself becoming more and more sensitive to it. Deja vus, that old example of someone's on the telephone and you thought about them for the first time in 10 years and they just call you. But those are not purposeful. What we're doing is purposeful. Now, the tasking, just as I said, the describe and sketch your, but we use 6-digit coordinates to associate the specific target with this specific tasking. So the specific yes, no question, its answer is associated with this coordinate because it's associated with the feedback target. So you describe and sketch your 6-digit coordinate feedback target. Now, the feedback target is a photo site. So I want you to understand what a photo site is. A photo site, now this is us. Other people might take you out to real targets, but we do all this over the internet so people can play and enjoy this and learn about themselves from all over the world. And that indeed is what's happening. So what a photo site refers to is the particular site location at the particular time the photo was taken. However, consciousness is expected to move to that site at the time the photo was taken and describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. So consciousness, I think we all know by now, has the ability to move across the planet, across the universe. There have been really good examples by Ingo Swann where he went to Jupiter and discovered the rings around Jupiter before the satellite Voyager was there. So consciousness can do that. Well, that's what consciousness does with this photo site, because once it does that, at the time the photo was taken, it can pick up the sounds, the colors, the shapes. The subconscious reports through your whole nervous system. So it can pick up anything that is at that target site. And that's, in fact, what you do during the feedback session. Now you know what the target is. You go there and you experience it fully. Okay? And that turns it into the photo site, which is done during your remote viewing. Now, we're very interested in, because this seems to be the way remote viewing works most of the time, in these first impression gestalts. Is there a lot of water there? Is it a big mountain? Is red a dominating color? Is it really, really loud? Some dominant thing when you first go look at the photo and get impressions of the photo site, what hits you over the head? Those are first impression gestalts. So we're quite interested always in those. Now, we haven't yet talked in this context about the analysis judging, so I want to say a few more words about that. Remember, the target is the feedback photo site. Only the one you see at feedback time. It's got nothing to do with anything else. And this session generally is isolated. Turns out it's a very important session, but it needs to be isolated from the remote viewing and feedback session as much as possible. So since there are two possible targets, only one is going to be the actual one. And when you remote view, that's the only one you want to focus on and describe. But sometimes, and we're going to talk about how to make that happen here, actually more than we've done in the past. So I hope you agree ARV, the whole idea of it is really easy once you accept precognition is real. The protocol is very simple. You describe and sketch what's going on here. Either you or someone else acts as your judge. Okay. If there, and I do want to emphasize how everybody in this field says practice, practice, practice. Just like a doctor, they call a doctor's practice. I kind of love that. Or a lawyer does a practice, or a shaman does practice. An ARV needs to do practice. So it becomes kind of automatic. Joe McMonagle still does 6 per week. So that's the whole idea of practice, practice, practice. You just get into it, and it's just something that is a skill that you learn. And once you learn that skill, APPI will make you a professional once you can demonstrate that you've mastered it to a good extent. Are there any questions, comments? Okay. So let's go into now the main topic here. Oops. Okay. Well, that is something we have to get over, which is right here. Given, and I think virtually all of us here, if you have made it here, you, I think, will believe that psi capabilities of consciousness are indeed real, but still considered paranormal. And I really don't like that word para. I mean, remote viewing is just a natural talent. With practice, you can get better and better at it. Now, will you all get as good as Joe McMonagle? Probably not, though who knows? You know, most people just sort of stop practicing and they stop thinking they can get better. Their own belief systems, I think, limit them more than innate talent. But that's my personal opinion. That happens to be controversial. Hey, we do precognition here all the time. Telepathy, well-known experiments on that. Plus, guess what we do with our ARVing? It's telepathy with yourself. And then psychokinesis is a well-known phenomenon now with good experimental evidence. The same thing with other aspects of psi. So the word para, above, beyond, besides, near, alongside, well, okay, but too much in our society is abnormal, incorrect. And that's really what we have to try to reduce. So let's do that. Let's talk about how to do that. And one of the things I think I can do is maybe give you at least some suggestions and some facts. And I think much of this is going to be up to you. But let me show you what I put together as suggestions. First of all, really get that this is the question that was asked by the Gallup poll. They're the most respected poll around, I think. And for each of the following items, and the items are listed here, I am going to read you. Please tell me whether it is something you believe in, something you're not sure about, or something you don't believe in. Okay, and then how about? And so they asked these questions. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for you, because it was so interesting. ESP was one of the questions. 41% of the people said they believed in ESP. They believed in haunted houses, ghost-like things. They asked that separately, and you can see the percentages here, 37, 32. Telepathy, 31%. A third of the people in the US believe in telepathy. Clairvoyance, the power of the mind to know the past and predict the future. A quarter of the people believe that. In fact, that number from an earlier one actually went down for some reason. They believe in astrology, communicate mentally with someone who has died. So the mediumship, witches, and later I'm going to talk about good witches and that sort of thing. Reincarnation, you get down to channeling of spirits, you get down to 9%. But interestingly, overall, 73% of Americans believe in at least one of these 10. Okay, 27% believe in none. So 73% believe in enough that you could, in fact, let me see. Something is happening here because I changed the screen, I think. Hold on. Okay, so there's a 73%. So you can start a discussion. And, you know, we had a previous webinar where we showed that really the precognition that we're doing, the ARV, that sort of thing, which is our focus, is in fact so closely related to all the other psi phenomenon, because they all come from the deep place of consciousness is fundamental, from that place where your subconscious is accessing and has access to all the information. So you know, you can kind of relate to any of these if you're willing to open up. And I'm using the word now, get out of the psychic closet. I'm trying to find a good graphic for that. But that's going to be part of getting through this paradigm shift. People who are believers in this need to have discussions with other people, and that they may be more open to it than you believe. So let's go to the second one. The easiest thing to do, and maybe the best place to start, is with a friend. If you haven't really discussed your beliefs and stuff about this with a friend, why not open it up with a friend? That'd be a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, I remember when I had to go through that, and I'm still ribbed about it, but in a very, friendly way. Oh yeah, something happens, and how come you didn't know about that? That sort of thing. There's no problem with that. And that's given me the opportunity to educate my friends more about this. And I definitely see, I see a change there. Oh, well, maybe it's not impossible, and they're transitioning. And a friend is indeed someone who knows all about you and loves you no matter what. And by knows all about you, knows it, at first they may think, okay, you believe in these crazy things, but nevertheless, they obviously will remain a friend. I think in some ways, it's almost a kind of a test. So this is another way of opening up discussions. You're going to see this is the commonality here. The way we're going to tame the dragon is to have more and more discussions and education. And science has tried, it's failed. I think it needs to come from the grassroots level, which is us. People who know it's true because we've done it, we do it, we can talk about our personal experiences. Okay, well, what happens if coffee is your only friend, right? Or for whatever reason, maybe your friends are so close professionally, your bosses, and you don't want to risk something with them. But there are other ways. Open up slowly, just gradually with people who you like and like you. They'll have some respect for you. They'll listen to you. You can have open conversations with them. And then maybe tell them small little pieces of side at a time, your personal experiences. By the way, I did get that call from somebody who I hadn't thought of 10 years. It was kind of strange. And see how they react. And you might be surprised. Or I just read something. Size in one form or another is in the news more and more these days. There's not only a disclosure going on with UFOs, I think there's a disclosure going on with psi as well. And more people are just seem to be open to it. And you might choose something related to their interests. Something might come up, and it might be a bit of a stretch, but see if you can connect some psi experience to that. This is where you get creative. But always be factual and acknowledge that there's much to be learned. Acknowledge that it's not perfect. That the reality is it's not perfect. And I found this graphic. The best chats are had over a cup of coffee, just casual discussions. Okay. And again, I think this is probably another really good way to tame that dragon. And when you do this, always just, it's like you're coming from a place where this is true. And indeed you do. And so why not share that? And, I hope you enjoy all of this. In fact, if you don't, you probably should do something else. I think you should always be spending as much of your time as possible doing something you enjoy. And this quote was a good one. Confidence is not they will like me. Confidence is I'll be fine if they don't. Uh, and I have never, in my personal experience, um, had anybody who changed their feelings about me because of my opening up to them. The worst experience I had was at a dinner, and someone who already knew about my feelings about this brought it up with a stranger there who happened to be a scientist, and he actually got up and went to another table. So there are people out there who will not accept this, and hey, that was his loss, not mine. So as part of this, as you're confidently talking, I think it is important to acknowledge that there are people who claim to be psychic and they're not. Yes, there are those fraudulent people out there who may even think they're psychic, but the equivalent of a hit rate might be at 10%, and they're just off so much. And then I think it's very important to acknowledge that even the best psychics are sometimes wrong. That'll actually give you a lot more credibility. And one of the challenges of society is to learn how to live with the reality that precognition, retrocausality, doesn't always work. Our work in ARV is, I think, one of the best examples of how you can make do with what I call an edge over chance. But again, that's one example. I'm sure people are coming up with other examples. But it's important to acknowledge the reality of this as part of your discussions. Now, again, this is a wonderful quote. Just be yourself. Let people see the real, imperfect, flawed, and of course, this is where we come in, quirky maybe, weird maybe, but beautiful and magical person that you are. I mean, all of us are unique. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, that's so creative for the universe, for the universe of collective consciousness, which knows everything, has everything, and yes, in some way we just don't understand. I'm not even sure we can understand it because we're not it, and it's the most fundamental, but it is creative, and we're the ones who are the process of creating it. It really is magical. Okay, so again, just always be honest and truthful, and enjoy yourself. I think when people see that, it actually will help tame this dragon. Ethics are a very important part of this. I don't think we can get through this paradigm shift if at the other side ethics are somehow as part of the process so much better, because it's a world, the extreme which people talk about is a world with no secrets. I don't know if you'll be able to block what's going on in your mind. Maybe that'll be the way it'll turn out, that you can protect yourself in some way. But why would you need protection if you felt really comfortable that there was nobody out there who is interested in harming you? It turns out this paradigm shift is, I think, a spiritual paradigm shift. This is really an important one for us because all the capabilities we're talking about are indeed spiritual. So here's a little bit more. Everyone knows personal consciousness is real, right? It's very easy to say, okay, what's going on with you right now? There's no way anybody can put any doubt in your mind about the personal experience you are having right now. A memory is in the past, and hey, some of us people believe that you can remember the future, and you know what? They're both flawed. But nevertheless, it begins with personal consciousness that you believe right now. So what is this psi personal consciousness that you're talking about? What is this subconscious mind that gets this information? You know, questions, questions, questions. Well, you know what? Maybe thoughts are what psi is made of. Maybe emotions, this graphic indicates. Consciousness is involved. I think acknowledging that no one knows for sure. You know, as a physicist, I always get into it's related to quantum mechanics. But quantum mechanics doesn't answer the fact that you've got personal experiences. It says, yes, there's non-locality there, and I can make good physics arguments, but you know what? I'm not sure that that helps. I think it's more the personal examples and the fact that you personally know it to be true is more important. I think another part of this is to encourage people to read books, explore online webinars. There are a lot of them. You know, we have a lot of them on our website. These two happen to be particularly good, in my opinion. This one from Russell Targ, The Reality of ESP, talks about so many of the experiments, and he basically concludes it's ridiculous not to believe it, even though we don't understand it. It's very clear that there's a lot going on. And then Dean Radin, The Supernormal, Science, Yoga, and the Evidence for Extraordinary Psychic Abilities. These two are relatively recent, but there's so many more. You know, anybody can Google ESP, psi, Opening to the Infinity. That's Schwartz's book. Captain of My Ship, Master of My Soul. That's Skip Atwater. He was the one who was in charge of the remote viewing unit at the Army at Fort Meade. I like this title, Centropy, the Spirit of Love. He talks about stuff there. Tangled Minds, another one by Dean Radin. There are millions of books out there, millions, lots of stuff on the internet. If people are interested, they can find this. And if you're interested in educating them, you might want to find that semi-related to them. You could Google, even on YouTube, psychic phenomena, ESP, and maybe some interest they have. Something like that, to the extent that you want to do this dialogue, which is what I'm encouraging all of you to do. Either come out of the closet if you haven't already, and how to continue discussions to elevate the too much ignorance which is out there. So be honest about your personal experiences. Always be honest. Share the fun of knowing that psi is real. And the fun part of it is important. I found a few jokes here. If you don't know where and when, you're not invited. And I should have a drum. I actually found one, but I'm not going to play it. Ziggy one here. You've got the whole plane to yourself. The large group going to the psychic convention all canceled at the last moment. Yeah, you understand the implication of that? I predict beer in your future. You might actually use that, some of you, as an opening line for going out to a happy hour or something. And then this is the Center for the Study of Astral Projection. And the door says, enter before knocking. So those are kind of cute. But, and not but, and, I just want to open up, for your thinking purposes, children. At the other side of this paradigm shift, it seems clear to me that children will just be automatically exposed to this. They'll learn it in school. It'll be talked about as they're growing up because their parents will take it for granted. You know, right now we're in a phase where too many people who show as children psychic abilities, the parents are worried about it, don't believe it. you know, it's turned off in so many different ways. And I just hope as part of the discussion, we will open up children to this more and more and more. At our conferences, we have had some young children come with their parents, and I hope we see more and more of that. And in fact, in many ways, I think that'll be one of the signs that we're moving further and further into this consciousness paradigm shift. Okay, so with that, are there any questions? You can turn on your mic or put something in your phone. Does this make sense to you? Is this something which hopefully you'll maybe be encouraged
Hello?
to do more of? Yep, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mary Jo. Marty, I finally figured out how to sign in.
Good.
And I just wanted to thank you for, you know, trying to teach me this stuff, because I really am psychic and I know I can use my talents for good. So I just am really excited about learning how to work with a group of people and, you know, just do whatever I can to help out. But the thing is, I don't know how. So I hope I learn from you.
Well, you'll learn today. Are you in a group yet?
Pardon me?
Did they put you in a prediction group yet?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Ooh, did they put you in a prediction group?
I don't think so. Who are they?
Me.
Oh.
Julie Demon does that. Okay. I will try to remember to ask her, but if it doesn't happen quickly, I'm going to put you in the car.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, don't worry about hurrying or anything. I have all the time in the world. You know, I don't believe in death. So if I don't get it this lifetime, I'll get it in the next.
Well, okay. But right after this webinar is over, you will be ready to start practice.
Okay.
So
I will just trust you.
exactly. And guess what?
What?
If you or anyone else has questions, you have my email address. I'm going to put it in the chat box.
Yes.
This is what I do, so you
Great.
can always contact me directly.
And thank you for being on my niece's radio show this Friday night. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah,
You keep breaking up. I don't know why I keep losing you.
I hope I'm not being am I breaking up for everybody else? Would someone else tell me if I am?
I wonder if people have their mics on, their microphone.
Yes, Marty, you're breaking up. I can't hear you when you turn away from the microphone. When you turn towards your computer and away from your microphone, I can no longer hear you. So yes, you're breaking up. Sorry about that.
See, I have my headphone on. Interesting. Okay, I think rather than try to solve that, I would just keep looking at the computer.
Okay, you sound much better and clearer now. That's whatever you did. It's good.
I didn't. Yeah, I think what happened is it's coming through my computer and not my headphones.
Okay, yeah, whatever you did, it's good now.
Okay, very good. I hope during the main presentation it was mostly okay.
I missed the main presentation. I finally figured out how to sign in. Somebody gave me the numbers, and so this is my first time. I hope you all bear with me.
Okay, very good. So let's move on now.
Okay.
To one of the three key sessions. And remember, I said it all starts with the feedback session. So let's now do a feedback session.
Okay.
And I want you, I'm going to turn your mic on for quietness and background. But if anybody wants to ask questions specifically, feel free to turn yours on. Okay, you, and when I say you, I mean both the psychic you, the I, Psi you, and the fact that you indeed are connected to all that is, to the universe of collective consciousness. That's what this symbol means. So the you create your retrocausality. Now, remember, we're about to do a feedback session, which is here, and it's from here that you get your RV session. And so I want you to be in that mindset, like starting now, because the feedback session, you're going to be entangling with the earlier one. And, yes, it's done, but guess what? Time is very strange. The entangling and the shining it here is how the information was gathered earlier. This is a list, and it's not the whole list because there's just not room to show the whole list, of the month-plus long predictions that we've been doing. At the bottom is the one we'll be doing today, which is, will the Bitcoin futures contract be over 10,000 on April 23rd, 2018? Okay, so what the tasking email for that, which went back to March, I guess, 21, is here. And I just want you now, for the newbies, to understand that the way this all starts in linear time is with a simple tasking email like this. Notice here's the event listed, and it tells you when your transcript is due. And so it was due on the 21st, which is when we sent all this out. And all you do is click here. And if you click here, up will come a page where you put in your email address, and then you proceed from there. And we'll be doing this a little later, so you'll see how simple it is. And that's my point. The technical protocol is online. It's all really very simple. The magic is in doing the remote viewing session and the feedback session. Now, here's what happened with that yes-no question. So will it be over 10,000 on April 23rd? Well, here is the price. Just like anything else, the price of Bitcoins varies, just like any other stock. This is showing the high, the low, and the close. And this is showing it from the open. This was an up move on that day. This is a down move. It opened here and it closed there. But, you clearly get the sense that over this time period, and we started right in here, over this time period, it went down below 10,000, working its way up somewhat. It turns out it's still not over 10,000, but it closed at 8888, so the outcome is no. So every event, and the events that we usually do happen within a week. We usually do relatively short-term events with the sporting and financial outcome, but it doesn't matter. There's always an outcome. In this case, the outcome was no. The coordinate is 738505. And it turns out, as I indicated, that one of the photo site's possible targets, in this case, photo site A was associated with yes, photo site B was associated with no. Understand that the computer does this randomly, and only the computer knows this until we get the outcome of the judging, and then it's revealed, because after the outcome of the judging, you want to take action. So, but the yes, no, this could have been no, yes, it's random. Very important to understand that. And the ranking that I gave, and this was a group prediction, the ranking I gave to this was a confidence ranking, which goes between 0 and 7, and we'll be talking about that more, but as you would imagine, the higher the number, the higher the confidence. And in this case, it was a 5 and a 4, and a difference of only 1 isn't quite as strong as if this had been, say, 5 and 3 or something like that, 6 and 4. But nevertheless, we went and made a prediction, and it was a miss. It turned out we had predicted yes, but the actual outcome is no. So let's move now forward. How do I get my feedback target? And you get it from a link just like this. And I'm not going to go through that now, just in the spirit of time. These take a long time because we're going to be doing a new prediction and judging. But just like I showed you the email for the tasking, this is the email for the Bitcoin one. And you would simply click here, and then you put in your name, okay, the same email address that you use for the tasking, and it will know what your coordinate was. And so that's it. So for the coordinate 738,505, which was the coordinate of prediction, we did that, or here, because we'll now go into some of the sessions. This is what would come up. So the step with the feedback would be to do your feedback session, and we're about to do some examples. And then you put some text in here about what went on. Gee, I did a great match here. Didn't do so well, but I learned such and such. The feedback sessions, whether it's a hit, miss, or pass, are where the learning goes on, where you improve, because you have the truth point and you have your transcript, and you can see the things you did which were right, and you can see the things which just weren't on target. And you might remember a little bit about what those felt like, and you might put some energy into improving the communication with your subconscious. If you didn't get the color green, remember how I was talking about first impressions? I looked at this, and one of my first impressions is green, open, pastoral, big. You know, those are the kind of things that come in as first impressions, at least for me. Everybody is different, so your first impressions might be different than mine. But I think if I did not get green in my transcript, I would use some time right now during the feedback session and think, green, I'm looking at the green. What does that feel like? I would write on my transcript again, perhaps in a different color, or on a new sheet of paper, green. So the word green might come up. So I'm really encouraging my subconscious and thanking it for what it did provide. You know, hey, thank you for being with me and giving me information. But this is next time when I have something which is a gestalt like this, has green in it, you know, give me green. Okay, so that's the basic idea. Now, often, remember I talked about there being 2 possible targets? During feedback itself, minimize the thinking about and the energy you put into the other target. We had a 5-second rule with our kids, and now the grandkids, like if food falls on the ground, within 5 seconds they can pick it up and eat it. You know, there are some exceptions, but you know, that's a 5-second rule. Well, we use it here too. Don't spend much time on anything negative. Don't think about the other target. And this is true for your feedback, judging, or remote viewing sessions. It's sort of, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. That's an old expression, same idea. And return back to the appropriate session, here the feedback session, with a more positive, fun, creative, interested attitude. You know, and do this relatively quickly. Here is an example. I'm going to show you a hit, a miss, and a pass. This is a hit. He gave the A a confidence ranking of 1 and the B a confidence ranking of 4 on the 0 to 7 scale. So let me, in a way, pretend I'm Vince. The first thing is, as soon as I got knowledge of the outcome, which may have come from this feedback picture, knowing that I had done this or some other way, because this was associated, so he might have looked at the Bitcoin thing or whatever and saw that this was no, he'd be happy. That's part of the feedback. You would encourage that. Now he's got his transcript and he's got this together. And again, he's feeling really good. Oh, look at this. And, he remembers the session certainly better than I do, but I'm looking at this session and I see this shape here. Oh, wow, look at that. Maybe that was something like that. He actually didn't even mark it. The other thing I should point out to you is he did mark these A's and A and B's. Those correspond to photosite A and photosite B. And there were 13, what Rustard calls elements, sometimes I call them precepts, in his whole transcript. And 2 of them were A's, 7 of them were B's. The little A's usually count for like a half a point. They weren't quite as strong as he felt. He judged that as a little A. He judged this as a big A in photosite A. In photosite B, notice the word rural. That was a really good word to come up for this, right? In fact, I might have even made that a bigger B, and I sometimes do that. I'll make a bigger B and count it for 2 points or a point and a half. Everybody will work out, the judges, their own detail. But this is what you do during the judging session. You're evaluating the A, which during judging time he was able to look at, and the B, photosite. So that's what the A's and B's mean here. But boy, that rural is good. I would circle it. I feel really good about it. Thank you, subconscious, for giving me that. That's wonderful. Look at the colors. Oh, he even got greenish. He only gave that a small B because of the ish. I would have given that a big B for sure. So we got other windy, breezy bushes down here. He gave himself a 4 looking at all of that based on the TARG scale, which you'll see when we do our judging. Now, and look at these lines. I see a lot of lines here. I'm looking here. Oh my, thank you, sub, for giving me those lines. Again, he didn't mark those. I would have marked those. Orientation is not necessarily right on, but I like those lines, especially now. Now, maybe when he was judging it, he didn't feel comfortable with them. I don't know why. But right now, looking at this, I would give credit. So that's one example. Here's another example. Now this one, and I'll ask you to do the same thing. This one has the CRA. Notice the A here is a 5 and the B is a 2.5. So that's a miss. What do you do with misses? Misses decided to take out people's names. If they want to, most people don't really mind, but I had a case where somebody did mind, and since I don't know how people are going to react, I'm just taking the name off. So that's why that's blanked out. But this person had a miss, and you can see, and again, the A, B, and this analysis here is all done during the judging. So you can distinguish between the judging information and the raw information. It's interesting. Here they got green, but they marked it with A and didn't mark it with B. And this is a time, gee, if I'm in their mind, you say, how could I miss that? Why didn't I at least give that a B. In fact, you know what? Looking at it now, that's a big B. Wow. Okay, so I really missed that. Okay, notice a lot of the words have both letters in them. I see an A, or some of the words, have A's and B's in it. Okay, here he gave a big B for green. So here we picked it up. Good. Thank you, sub. Thank you, sub. But there were clearly a lot more A's, and I don't know if I got into believing that the A should be good. Maybe I started out with a lot of A's. Like here's indoor as opposed to outdoor. And as a judge, I might have been overwhelmed with that because the other one was so clearly indoor that I started misjudging. Only, and in this case, we do self-judging, as you'll see. The self-judge knows, or the judge knows, how they did it. You learn a lot about your judging during the feedback session. But don't dwell on the negative. After the formal feedback session, you might in fact go back and even look at the other picture, though I don't encourage that, but it's not part of the feedback session. You would do that in a analysis session, for example. But here what you do is, oh my, look, I got biological really good. I got green. Oh, that feels really good. Sub, you're doing really well there. Thank you. Let me see if I see. This almost looks like vegetation. Oh yeah, you gave it a little B. Very good, very good. Give yourself as much positive as you can get. During the regular judging, I don't recommend pushing it. This is where the judgment comes in. Big B, little b versus leaving it blank. You want to be a judge. On the other hand, during the feedback session, it's okay. Why not? Thank your sub. Say, okay, you did that, but you know what? It would have been better if you had done maybe, like if you were trying to get to the shrubs here, maybe if you had done something like this. And I'd put that right on the session or on a blank sheet of paper. People do both. And gee, write shrubs, trees. We didn't get any of that here. That would have been really cool. And I'd take a moment and actually do that, intending and even expecting to improve the communication channel. Isn't this all about communication? Everything we're doing. In fact, all of Psi is ultimately about communicating information from the universe of collective consciousness, the Akashic record, the matrix, information that your guides have, which includes everything. However you want to think about the connection, it's the connection with the universal collective consciousness, because I think that's actually accurate, past, present, future, anywhere in the universe that consciousness is touched. It's getting the appropriate information up through your nervous system into your conscious moment. So it's all about communication. And this is the time, the perfect time to improve that, to expand that. Okay, here's the third one. This one was a pass. Oh, no, it wasn't. I must have done 2 misses. I'm sorry. I had looked at a pass because this is another miss. And I guess I'm focusing again on how you learn more from the hits than the misses, including, this gives me an opportunity to test what I think is a very important approach. Notice here, the word chocolate must have been involved. Look at all the A's that they got here. To get a 5 is very hard. It's, as you'll see, a 5 means you got a really good session. And so she really got a really good session here, matching the wrong photo. That would be called displacement. If this happens to you reasonably often, and you are convinced that you judged the photo side A correctly, what I recommend is do a personal meditation where you ask your sub, what's going on? It looks like the sub is trying to give you some sort of message. Look, we know the sub, no matter how high we try, and I'm going to give you suggestions on how to try a little later, but no matter how hard we try, since in this universe of collective consciousness, everything is entangled, you've got access to everything. The subconscious in principle has access to both, no matter what you do. We're going to try to minimize it. We've proven that with independent judging. We've had people get fantastic descriptions of targets they never see. How did they get that? Well, they got it from the judging session when it went down into the universe of collective consciousness. I mean, that's the way our universe works, that you can do that. Now, the question is why? And ask your sub. I don't know why it did it this time. I don't know why it's doing it more consistently. I can't tell you that. That's between the sub and you. And I really recommend when that's the feeling, I did it right. Why did you give me this wrong? Why did you describe so well the other target? And meditate on that. That's just a beautiful thing to do. And you know what? Your sub will give you an answer. Hey, it might say, hey, this happens every now and then. You know, you're not 100%. I want to teach you that you're human. It might just give you that. Or it might give you something else. Like I want you to really learn how to get green. Notice green was missed here, right? So I really want you to communicate green to me. I don't know what it's going to say, but you just need to honestly ask your sub. Now, notice, and again, this is for newbies, the level of words that people are getting and the fact that they cue themselves with the kinds of information that, you know, the general classes of information that your senses can give you directly. And here's really a summary of those: textures, colors, smells, tastes, temperature, sounds, dimensions, geometry, motion. And they're kind of low-level words. If you get like the naming of the target, we call those analytical overlays, because the mind, intellect is getting involved. The intellect, very important. Love your intellect. Nothing wrong with your intellect. But it's not where the information comes from. Comes from something, the subconscious. Your submerged consciousness is sharing information with your conscious mind. The intellect is then doing analysis on that. Those are called analytical overlays. But you can get all kinds of information, including aesthetic impacts, which are like emotions. But the level of words, or the kind of words that you learn, non-level words, not nouns. They're words you typically learn when you're, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just learning the meaning of language and low-level words. But then, of course, sketches are also very important, and they're usually partial images. It's very rare, and Russ Targ says if you see a full, clear image, it's not remote viewing. You just, subconscious apparently gets pieces at a time, mostly, and that's what we've seen. Okay. Any questions? That would be helpful here. Okay. Okay. Let's move now. Oh, where did that come from?
Marty, I have a question.
Sure, shoot. Why?
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, go
Wait,
ahead. I'm just
I just
wondering.
forgot it. I'm sorry. I was just wondering what analytical overlays were.
An analytical overlay is basically a noun. Let's say the picture was the Eiffel Tower with water, there's water near the Eiffel Tower. Good remote viewing, not good remote viewing. Generally, what you'd expect to get would be the water, but you'd expect to get maybe triangles, ribs, lines drawn the way the Eiffel Tower looks. But if somebody brought that in and said Eiffel Tower, even though it was right, that would be an analytical overlay. They might say something else. Another example I'd like to give is if it's red and round and suddenly basketball comes into your head, that's an analytical overlay. And you'll get the sense of that. And that's one of the things you learn is the difference of when the intellect is participating, and it's a very important thing to learn, versus when the information is coming from the subconscious. They have a different feeling. It's a noun, you kind of know it, but there are other times when, I think that, and you'll almost have that thought or something close to that. That's what an AOL is. And you put it down because the rule about them is most of the time they're wrong, sometimes they're right. And when they're right, you give extra strength to them. Mostly I ignore them when they're wrong.
What does the L stand for in AOL?
Analytical overlay.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I'm not going to look at the chat box because apparently I'm not heard while I do that. Maybe I can bring it over here. No. Okay. And I don't know what happened here. I didn't realize sketching, and I don't know how to get rid of that. Let me see if it's going to remain. Let me try to.
Did I make a line on there? I'm sorry.
I don't know how you could even do that. No,
I don't know. I'm just checking out.
I don't think it was. No, I don't think it was you.
Okay. Is there a red line on there?
Oh, am I the only one that sees that? You guys don't see a red line here?
I see it because I did it, and I don't know how I did it. I'm sorry.
You did do it. You touched your screen?
I did. There was something, a little pencil. I'll try to get rid of it. I don't know.
Well, see if you can erase. See if you've got an eraser there.
Yes.
I'm surprised that's being shared. That's sort of interesting. I have more to learn about Zoom, and that might be an interesting feat. There, you got rid of it.
I got it. I used the eraser.
Okay. That's good. Okay. Interesting. Let's now move forward with our prediction. And the first thing to really learn and begin to get deep down right now, because we're beginning the process, is that you, and again, this psychic you who's connected to all that is the universe of collective consciousness, it's you, that big you, who is creating your precognition. It's you who create the feedback session that's going to be associated with this remote viewing session. It's this retrocausal effect that your subconscious is using to give you this information. So get into that place. I mean, you are really a creator in this sense of your precognitive RV transcript. This is you. This is you. And you're connected to this UCC. So get that. And right now, take a moment to set this intent and expectation that that's just what's going to happen, that your subconscious is going to give you this kind of information. So get quiet with that and know that this can happen and feel good about that. Now, we're not going to have any front loading. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. I'm going to shortly give you a coordinate, but what I would like you to do is what is called psychic shielding. It's just this idea that you're not going to let any information come in from, in particular, the judging session. Remember how we talked about that? You're only going to allow the information to come in from your feedback session. And the idea, you know, these graphics kind of show it. I like the words here with the witch and what they said about white magic. I cast this circle of protection in every elemental direction to feel the universal connection. And what's white magic? Well, white magic is what you'd imagine it to be. It's magic that is meant to benefit others without coming at the expense of someone or something else. So you have to feel this is a good thing. Basically, white magic is good magic filled with positive vibes. When you're getting the information from your feedback session, that really is benefiting this educational mode that we're working in. It's ultimately going to benefit everybody, including you. Nothing wrong with benefiting you because you shine outward. White magic is great for everyone, thanks to they have a threefold law. I didn't really know this, but at least this group, the cool thing about magic is that whatever you give to others, you get back to yourself 3 times over. This is called the threefold law. So if you give out good vibes, then you'll get 3 times the amount of goodness headed back to you, even if your spell isn't meant for you. So, okay, so now what you're going to do is get a feeling for this. The information that you're going to get is coming down through you into this universal collective consciousness and entangled only with the feedback session and the target photo site. So now let's get your coordinate. And I'll show you how to do that. And to do that, I really want us to do this just the way you would do it in your regular approach. And so here's the email. And you click on the link here. You would put in your email. And I'm representing all of you. You should know when you do this within a group, each one of your coordinates is different and randomly chosen, and the targets are chosen from a pool of 800 prepared photos, but they are unique, in fact, to you. But here, we're going to share one because this is a webinar. So here's the webinar workshop. These are the kind of groups that you can join, and we're doing one coordinate. And I click here, and there's the coordinate. So on a blank sheet of paper or some other paper you might have prepared with those topics on it, put 901581. And I'd like you to say that out loud. 901581. And the reason you're saying it out loud is it can act like a beacon to get you to your feedback target, to your feedback session. After you do your transcripts, then you would get that to your computer and upload it. So some of you who have been here before, feel free to do your session. I give 10 minutes. Some people like more than that. But the coordinate is 901581. Put that on top of a piece of paper. And let me go back now to here. Okay. We have this consciousness is more fundamental. Use your coordinate as a beacon. That's why you're saying it out loud. Okay. And emphasize your intention. You're going to be paying attention. You're paying attention to what's coming up from your subconscious. If you get a sense it's the intellect, put it on the right side of the page and mark it as an AOL. But it's your intention and expectation play a very important role in the success of applications and research. This is the conclusion of Joe McMonagle and MA. So you're now setting that strong intention to describe and sketch your 901581 feedback target. I can send you a paper like this, but for the newbies, just a blank piece of paper. In fact, a lot of people just do that, but you start with a coordinate on top, name, date, time. These are preliminaries. And then you start with a squiggle. Lynn Buchanan had a whole thing on coordinate ideograms, but you write your coordinate and you can do a squiggle. Some people think it's a pictogram. Again, this becomes personal. You'll get gestalts and your sketches and all of that will fit on 1 or 2 pages. Usually 1 or 2 pages are more than enough for ARV. Some people like to do more because they like to practice their CRV. AOLs go over here, and I like to call them trash as well. So it came from the intellect, might be junk, but writing down what came into your consciousness allows you to open up to get more information. So you might go down again and get more information time after time. During 10 minutes, I don't know, everybody goes down a different amount. This cool down period where you get really quiet and get rid of day-to-day issues is very important. In fact, Joe thinks it's a major part of what he calls the discipline, opening yourself up to listen to your subconscious, to connect with the target. So that's when you set this intention and expectation. So typically we might take half of the time, 5 minutes of, I'm about to give you 10 minutes using hemisync, and roughly half of it for cool down, but this is very personal. Some people might only use a few minutes. Others might use 8 minutes, and then in 2 minutes, they will put everything down very quickly on their page or so. There will be a 5-minute quiet notice that you're at halfway, and then there'll be a 9-minute. At 1 minute left, I'll also say something to give you 1 minute notice to get maybe one more. So, okay, so with that, I'm going to click this and do your remote viewing. Just listen to your sub with this intention and expectation to describe and sketch your 91581 target. Hmm. About 1 minute go. Perhaps get another element precept. Okay, come on back to your normal self. Okay. Whoops. I think you're all hearing that. That's the next. That's the next one. Let me turn that off. I guess you're now hearing one of my past webinars. I have to figure out how to turn it off. Interesting. I can't get to it. It's interesting. Wow. Where is okay? Sorry about that. As you have probably gathered, I do these without like detailed preparation. Oops, I see a black line there. Someone must have touched their screen. I've got to figure that out as well. I'm still learning Zoom. I did see on the, oops, you added some. Go find your erase. Yeah, and there's another one here. I saw your message in the chat box. And yes, please, Anastasia, do bring your child. I would really encourage that. And, I don't think I would let a 14-year-old come by themselves without a parent, worried about legal reasons, but with a parent, that would be terrific. So yes. Okay, so you now have your sessions in front of you. And guess what the next step is? The judging, where we have a yes, no, again in either order. And that's because there are two possible targets. With the judging, in fact, I think I will do this first. With the judging, you are going to see both targets. And remember, we talked about, and I even don't like talking about it too much, but it is a reality, the displacement, the idea that you will get too much information from what turns out to not be the target. Your subconscious went to the future, got that information, but sometimes it wants to peek. Deborah Katz had a talk with, and she actually referred to this as being very dangerous. And it's dangerous because of the displacement. And we do see it too often. We're all individually, you need to get to the point where you can individually minimizing. And this is where she says, if you consider dangerous, maybe you won't do it. So what I would like to suggest is that you now build a isolated space-time capsule for your analysis judging session, very similar to what we did here, right? What you're going to do is intend and expect that your AJ session, the one you're about to do now, will have minimum interactions with anything outside this session. So now you're staying inside this bubble and kind of imagine putting something there, and you're judging mostly intellectual. You know, your sub is obviously around, but it's not going to do any sharing with anything outside. So during this session, it's going to be very isolated, judging session. Let's see, I've already talked about the AB. This is just an example. Let's now get the two targets. So you can begin doing it. So to do that, remember this page was where we got the 901581 target. You would normally bring this into your computer, browse for it. Everybody by this time seems to know how to do that. And so you would have it in here as a JPEG, or if you do multi-pages, some people want it in as a PDF, even a Word doc, a DOC, not a DOCX. But one way or another, you would get it in here. Since I don't do these, I've created what I call a dummy transcript, just to be able to go to the next step, because you do have to put your transcript in here. And then you click submit. And as soon as I click submit, well, up will come the photo site that's associated with that coordinate. So this is photo site A. Now, some people like to stop right here, and you have your transcript and judge it against photo site A, and go down and mark all of the elements with a capital A, little a, big A, if you like. The sketches as well. In fact, sometimes the sketches have enough sub-elements that they might have more than one A on it. Others like to look at both. This is photo site B. And for now, what I'm going to do is then show you and allow you to do both of these. And then ultimately, As an individual, you would have to fill in the 0 to 7 scale, which we'll talk about shortly. Some of you already know about that, so you can start doing your judging against these two. Okay. So you've now seen those, but for the newbies, I want to go on with the presentation. Some of you have the capability of screen capturing or capturing these two, so you can do the judging on your own. But let's now go back here, and I want to talk to you about analysis judging. Joe McMonagle, the best viewer in the world, right? He really believes, and actually so do I, that these first impression gestalts, the big picture things you see, and in those two pictures you can see they're very different. You would get very different first impressions out of them. And I'm not going to give you mine because, again, they're individual. They're not always the same. But, as a judge, you should look for those. He thinks those should have 50% of the weight associated with the final judging that you do. And these are I call them FIGs, first impression gestalts, the things that smack you in the face, kind of get you in the ballpark, if there was a lot of water around, you ought to get water, as would be one of the first impression gestalts, if there's an ocean scene with a boat in it or something like that. And there can be more than one. And then 50% weight is this counting approach that you saw, where you count the number of A's divided by the total number of possible elements, and then the same thing with the B's. Typically, if they're over a half or so, it starts getting interesting. But that would be 50% of the weight. So, okay. So the total you can get from that is 2. You can get a 0 to 1 in terms of the percentage of figs that you got, and then you can get 0 to 1 in terms of the fractions. So if you got half the figs and your A was half, you'd be up here at 3.5. And of course, if you got more of the gestalts, that moves you over to here. So in a graphical sense, that's his approach. Some people simply go, and notice what I did is I connected that to a 0 to 7 scale, which is the TARG scale, which is where we way back when started, and just used those words. But the importance of these gestalts, I think, has been demonstrated pretty clearly. So I did that. But here is the TARG scale, and some people simply still get a sense of that from these words, where 0, 1, and 2 go from no correspondence, little correspondence. Now you've got some correct elements, but not enough to suggest results above chance. So a 2 would be really chance. You're saying, hey, I got a color right. I might have gotten something else right. I didn't really get any of the major gestalts. Had a monkey typed on a typewriter, you might have done just as well. It's chance. And after you do a few of these, you get a good thing. And in fact, the element count, if it's below 0.5, unless there's really good gestalts, that's something sort of getting close to chance, somewhere between 2 and 3. A 3 is a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the former, the correct elements, to indicate that the viewer had made contact with the targets. So in a fractional sense, again, ignoring gestalts, which I don't want you to do, but in a fractional sense, that might be like half. So you'd say, okay, yeah, there was some psychic functioning there. My subconscious gave me good information, but there was so much poor information that I'm right on the margin here. Um, and I probably would not want to trade with a 3. A 4 is good correspondence with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. There's still some incorrect information, but now you've got some really what you call good correspondence with several matchable elements. See, and I would include in that things like gestalts being part of that good correspondence. We consider a CR of 3.5 to be wagerable. So if you give the confidence ranking for photosite B 3.5 or more, and say less than that for photosite A, whatever's associated with photosite B, you'd be willing to trade a few bucks on if you give it a 3.5. So it's the lowest one that's just wagerable. Now a 5, good correspondence with unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. That has now brought in these new words: unambiguous, unique, matchable. Unambiguous and unique are high level words, but guess what? There's judgment in what is unambiguous, what is unique. But clearly it's pretty darn strong. If I ask you, and often when there's a 5, I will ask, what is unambiguous and unique about this? In there, and people give different answers, but they do in fact feel that there's stuff there that makes it that. It might be a collection, or it might be like we had one example where there was one key word that was very unambiguous. What's a pastoral? Something like that in that green example. Pretty, pretty good word that really points very specifically to that picture. But you still want to be have a lot of other stuff as well. And then a 6 and a 7, what's happening here? Okay. A 6 and a 7 bring in this analytical overlay idea where you might name the function of the target specifically, or name it. Eiffel Tower, it's a motorcycle, something like that, rather in addition to movement, motion, whatever. You name something in the target which really probably involved your intellect, these high-level words, but nevertheless would be correct. And by the time you get to 7, you have essentially no incorrect information. Your ratio is very near 1 of elements over total number of elements. Okay. So, well, this just sort of says the same thing, but now what I'd like you to do, and I'll go back and show you the 2 pictures, is to put on your transcript, mark those A's, mark those B's, big A's, big B's, little B's, on your transcript, and ultimately come up with a confidence ranking of 0 to 7, and then attach to an email and mail to me your transcript, which will have on it the CRAs and the CRBs, and then I will put those in a spreadsheet, and then I have to come up with a final group prediction based on that. And we'll do all of that together. So let me now go back to here. Let me put that over here. Let me bring up also. I have my snag thing, which I did. editor. Here we go. So this is a reminder of the TARG confidence. Let me see if I can make that bigger. I can. I have to find out if I can get rid of those marks, but I think you can see it well enough. Fair enough. So, are there any questions? Questions, put it in the chat box. We'll now look. And okay, I will wait for your other transcript. Okay. In fact, well, let me open up. I have to open up a few things so I keep things on the table. Let me do that. I'll move that over here. There. And you take as much time as necessary to do this right. This, remember, this is the place where decisions will be made about trading. So it's worth as much time as it takes. But then do it, pack it, and send it to me via my email. Which I can put in here again if I want. And I put my Outlook over here so I can tell as you send your transcripts to me. Okay, thank you, Lila. I'm gonna Hmm. Okay. Millie, then just give me your confidence ranking so I can put it in the table. And you might send that to me privately. While I hope others are, just attaching to the emails. There. That's a problem with my inbox. Okay. Okay, good. I am getting transcripts. Okay, so if you're still judging, do keep doing your judging. You've seen the pictures. No. And we'll work with that. Try to keep looking forward. Two things I need to figure out with Zoom next time. Okay. So here's your transcript. Let's see if I bring it over this way. Okay, there it is. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Whoops. I want to make it big enough to read. Well, okay, why don't you just tell us about having trouble in this format, copying it. So, Patricia, you have a mic. First of all, I wanted to tell us about it. Can you get the mic or not? Okay. Apparently not. Just let me see if I can make it full. Ah, okay. Now we can see it all. Oh, I think you might have a second one. You said the second one. Here we go. Okay, so we can see this. You gave a 1 and a 5. Table. And don't anybody ever be influenced by what anybody too many times will go the other, and that's the person that's right. So let me take this and see if I can make it. Okay. what I'm trying to do is have that. There we go. And the pictures on at the same time. Not those pictures. Those pictures. Okay. So outdoors have A and B. I don't quite see an A there, but that's certainly outdoors as well. Um, Nighttime, not sure. Dark blue and black. Yep. Dark violet. Body of water. See, that's what I was looking for. Major gestalt. And there you got it. Body of water. Those
Oh,
structures.
can I say
Ah,
something?
good. You're
Oh
there.
yeah, it got me out every time I have my microphone available. It just gets me out of the meeting. I don't know why. So it's funny because I saw the water definitely,
Yep.
and a big rock. I think it was a rock, but now I think it was those bears that I was seeing.
You know what? You can mark. That's cool. Mark as you want, and then we'll erase it. So that's good. Okay.
But I think I don't know. For me, B is the right photo site.
Because you got boat. I'm trying to understand.
Well,
Your logic. I'm not disagreeing with it, but related to beach time or to the ocean. When did that information come into you?
well, after I see those different elements, I always ask myself, what is this picture about?
Ah, okay.
That's when I just try to resume, in a way, or just to have an idea. And that's why I wrote down it's a beach time or in the ocean,
Okay.
sitting in the ocean, something related with water, but in a big way. It's
Okay.
not
That's
like a paddle, it's like,
very good.
that's
That's
why
a
I did it.
summary.
Mhm.
Patricia, they call that in CRV and a lot of methodologies.
Excuse me, you're breaking up again. What did you say?
That would be called a summary.
Oh,
And that's good. A lot of people do that every time. They will then take the information and get the feelings of what was the strongest about it and give a summary of what they think it is. And that's just what you did there. And that totally explains the five, besides getting everything here. So that's good.
yes. And for the photo site, eight, I think just the feelings were going with that, because
Okay.
I find that cozy and calm, so, but that's it.
Okay. No, that was good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, very good. Let's go to the next one. I think it's helpful to see other people's styles and what they do. And just like you gave us the explanation, it helps if we can get that too. So this is Lila's. I can turn that around. Snag it. So let's do that. Okay. Wait a minute here. Okay. Right. So it's snag it is there. Open the editor. Which is here. And then image and rotate clockwise. And now let me reduce that. Reduce that. Okay. Let me get rid of that. Right. Okay, Lila, you have a mic. Why don't you talk to us? I see you're doing your.
I'm here.
And okay, so why don't you justify for us the 5? Well, you got water. Well, why don't you
I
say?
can barely hear you, Marty.
Oh, you got water. Can you barely
Oh,
hear me?
there you are. Yes. Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, gosh, this is a real problem. Okay, okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, I got water. That was really interesting. And my textures, I had rubbery, brushed, nappy, and scaly. I thought that was very interesting, that precept of scaly. And that's what the fish is, scaly. And it also has a nap. Scales have a nap. So I was definitely feeling something like that.
Yep.
My dimensions kind of fit. Certainly my dynamics and my sounds.
Oh, those are really good. Yep. Rushing and crashing,
Yeah.
loud,
That's the
roar.
water.
Oh, very nice. It's so
Yeah.
good when you know, of all the words that could have come up.
You're kind of muffled.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you
I
heard him
can't
muffled.
I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you.
You heard him muffled?
No, your voice is muffled.
Oh, can you hear
Yeah.
me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Oh, I wonder if. Wow, really upsetting. Better, but
Yeah.
not good.
What's that?
Better. That's a good question. Okay. Let me just see if I can get back and fix this. I guess I need to learn that. I hate to do it on our webinar time, but it's obviously hurting the webinar. So let me see if I get back. Where is my... Yeah, I'm still in the webinar, but I can't even find my controls. Yeah, see something. Oh, okay, there. Where are my webinars? Hold on, I've got participants, but I don't have controls. Okay. Gosh, my controls got way over here.
Marty, you're still very, very
Okay,
muffled.
can you see my controls now or not?
Yeah, I can see controls.
You see mine here? You see them moving? No. You would
I
see.
don't see anything moving.
I'm just trying to understand more and more what's going on.
Huh.
There is a way. Now I want to see if I can change my audio.
Your voice fades in and out.
Right. Computer audio connected.
Okay, now it's clear.
Let's see which one.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, you're seeing that.
Yes, I'm seeing that.
Yeah, but that's making me I'm hearing you louder.
Okay.
Microphone.
I'm hearing you louder too.
Oh, you are?
Yes, I am. Yes, and clearly now.
Are you hearing me now?
What?
Are you here? It turned away. It's still
Yeah.
not on the right.
It's fine unless you turn away.
I just plugged in my other speaker.
Okay.
My other mic, what I think is my other mic, microphone array. Huh. God.
Well, it sounds clear now.
Only, but not now. Yeah. See, when I turn away, okay,
Yes.
we're going to have to, something happen to. Wait. I see that's what happened. Darn it. Yeah. See, now you'll be able to hear me even when I talk away.
Okay.
I had plugged in the wrong mic, right? You can hear me
Yes.
now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Very upsetting. It was the wrong one. Okay.
Okay.
We're good with respect to that, at least.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So let's now go back, and there you are.
I also wanted to point out in my colors.
And there that is. Okay, shoot. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in my colors, I have dark, black, pink. Now, I don't see pink, but I want to assume that that's a pink salmon that they're going to catch. So that's why I gave it a little B.
And I like that you gave it a little B only. Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
And then spotted. Salmon are spotted.
Yeah. Also, I would say the water looks
water
spotted too.
Yes.
So I don't mind marking that.
Yeah.
But that's, you see, this is where it's important for everybody to understand. It's judging. This is called judging. You know, I might have given that either a nothing or a B, and that would be fine too. It's you're judging, but also you're communicating with your subconscious. That's what's so important here. When you understand that this way, just the way you've said it, you're sharing that with your subconscious, and it will use that in the future. So being consistent with this communicate, you know, just like you use the word dog all the time for something that's dog-like, you need to be consistent, because every time you do this with practice, you're improving the communication channel.
Okay. And then I also, one of them, okay, so in my dimensions, the very first one I put was a large circle. And then I also wrote the word round. Now, bears aren't circular, but they sure are round. See what I'm saying? They're round. They're round shaped.
You mean
the bears?
The bears themselves are generally they have roundness in them.
Yeah.
That's another example. And we've done judging sessions where people have talked over and over again about different transcripts doing it in different ways. Some people would say that's not round. If you see it as, that doesn't mean they're right. In fact, it doesn't matter what other people say. What matters is your communication channel. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, is this round over here? Was that big enough to be round?
Right.
And it's up to you to decide. Some people are very literal. It's got to be, you know, an oval might be close enough. This will definitely not be close enough to some people.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that, which is why I didn't mark the words large circle, because they're not a circle, but they are round.
Well, okay. Again, you're you know, in the future, your subconscious will give you round when you have rounded, like a semicircle certainly would be round, and maybe that's what you're picking up here.
Yes.
But again, for everybody who's listening to this, the communication channel is very personal, and it's one which you build by communicating, and that's just what you're doing now, Lila.
Okay, and then I have two straight lines in my ideograms with a small b. To me, those are representing the two bodies. Not that they're absolutely straight bodies, but there are two of them. And so I considered that Okay, I saw two things. There it is.
And let me
So-
ask you this.
Yeah.
I get that. And two is good, a couple, that's fine. But what about the straight lines here? And what about
Well,
two straight
yeah,
lines here?
yeah. There weren't enough of them. If I was going to be describing the photosite A, I would have put more lines, but I only put two.
Okay.
So,
Again, you're communicating right now your approach. Very good.
and then just my sounds went to photosite B.
Oh, those sounds are very strong in my opinion.
Yeah,
Rushing, crashing, you know,
roaring.
and yes, thank you, sub. Right?
Yes,
I
thank you
mean,
very
that's
much.
really clear.
Yep.
Some of these, hey, we're working out how to do that stuff. This we've worked out already.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now it's very somber and sad for the fish in my feelings, right?
Hey, that's
But I didn't
nature. The
mark them.
bears would not be here for us to enjoy if it wasn't for them being able to eat fish.
That's right. That's
So-
right. So I didn't really mark those because that's my human feelings put onto an animal, and you know, they're really pretty happy that they're getting a meal.
Right.
So anyway,
Okay. And roaring and loud, those were really good.
yeah,
So, okay, Lila, thank you very much. That was an
sure.
excellent.
That was fun.
Good. Always, please, always enjoy this process. Okay, let's see who's next. I'm just doing them in order and trying not to miss any. Okay, Marusha. Sometimes they come up bigger.
Hi, Marty. It's me.
Hi, how are you doing? Let me turn it around so we can read it.
Yeah, I had 3 pages, I guess, just from background. I did 3 pages. I just go through the pages rather quickly, put down anything that comes up and, use up
Okay.
the space. I'm sorry about that.
No. Here it's a little awkward, but is the third page like a summary?
The third page is a few things from the end, and also my judging is on the third page as text at the bottom.
Okay.
But there are 3 pages of drawings and stuff.
Okay. In fact, maybe we can look at those upside down, and then I'll turn around the third one, if you don't mind, just in view
Sure.
of time. We're looking at this now.
My biggest perception was the diagonal. And unfortunately, that's in both pictures. But I felt the diagonal was stronger in A.
Okay.
And then I have AOLs of a violin and a lizard. And the violin, I think, corresponds to the A because the way that window comes out with the lines over it, it sort of looks like the bridge of a violin to me with the lines crossing it.
Right.
The lizard, which was my other AOL, it could sort of be seen as the fish, but that not necessarily. Then I have an opening, which you could see through the opening, which could be the door of the cafe. The colors I got were tan, gray, powdery. Something stands away from the page on a diagonal. The tan is kind of could be either one. The gray is very strongly, to me, particularly where on the next page I wrote graphite-like
Okay.
diagonal lines. The smells I got were cold and metallic. I got a light blue square, which doesn't seem to reflect anything. Then I got wires as squiggly wire lines. But on the second page, there is a brown, looked like a brown pole with lines going through it. And that very much looked to me like the, on page 2, it very much looked like the lantern in the A. If you can see, I can't I don't want to annotate.
Yeah, and it's hard to read. Unfortunately, anyway, it's fuzzy when I made it bigger. But your descriptions have been really good. I think that works well as well.
And the teeth on the edge sounds like B, but the dry atmosphere sounds like not B. It's like something in my subconscious telling me dry. It's a dry atmosphere, so it can't be B. So that is really one of the things that put me over the edge. Two-tone gray, matte, black.
Did you get structure?
Empty but not sad.
Did you get structure?
Structure.
Or something? What would you say was the gestalt?
Diagonal was the big,
Okay.
diagonal lines were the big gestalt.
Gestalt for you.
The diagonal lines, because that was in my ideogram on the first page, and it was very strong for me. Also, also very strong for me was the graphite gray, and you can see that at the bottom of the picture. And the lamppost with the lines going over it looks like my drawing from page 2 to me. It's what I saw. I didn't draw it as well.
Okay.
Now, the tapping and clicking sound, I don't know that would account for either of the pictures, tapping or clicking. So,
Yeah, well, noise clearly goes more for B, but tapping and clicking is not as strong as what Lila got. So, okay, I get it. I have no problem with it, and you're down as a 5 and a 2.5. So, and I thank you for that.
and I thank you.
And let's go get the next one. Are you a Roberta, or is the row for something else? Roberta, you there? No, looks like she left.
Hello.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah, I just had my mic muted. Sorry.
Oh, Mary
Yes.
Jo and Roberta.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. No problem with that. Let's see if we can get you up here, and also the drawings.
How exciting. This is my first one. I'm so nervous.
I love it. Don't be nervous. You're having fun, though. You laughed a little bit. So that's
Yes, I love it. Whatever it is.
Okay, so talk to us about this.
Yeah. Where should I start?
I see you got water, but you
Yes.
didn't put a B. You used a check mark.
Oh, I did that wrong. Okay, so water.
No, don't. There's almost no way to say wrong here. But it would have been better, don't you think, if you did B, because that would be what you wanted to compare it to.
Photo B. Is that what you're talking about?
Photosite B.
Okay,
So
I
you put
gotcha.
a
And
B
what is
there,
that?
Right.
But why
Lake
why
is
do you-
so that's good.
Why do you use a small B rather than a large B? Or
If it was marginal, if you're not sure it was really B, but it was close, like if there was not a crashing noise, some people, when it was any kind of noise, might have put a small B. Others might not. So there's a judgment there.
I see.
In fact, what about peaceful? Notice maybe peaceful it doesn't go here, but would you call this a peaceful site?
Yes, so that would be A.
That would either be a big A or a little a, depending on how you felt about peaceful. Is there activity going on inside? But I would say that should have been an A, yeah.
Okay, I think I'm getting it.
Yeah. Okay, now, you did check marks for the one you thought it was going to be. Was that your logic?
I did check marks for the photo site B.
Because you felt, after looking at your thing here, you said, you know what, I believe it's photosite B.
That's what I thought.
And you've already, this is why we do A and B. You should really judge them independently no matter what.
Okay.
Because sometimes you'd be surprised, like the word peaceful comes up,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say, oh, maybe I can interpret in fact, I bet usually you can find some word or other that could go for both.
Okay.
And so do judge it against each one.
Okay.
So that's advice.
Oh, I just noticed something. People
Mhm.
gathering, that could be an A.
Absolutely. Even though they're not in there,
Yeah.
know that they're there a lot. So that would be an A.
Mm-hmm.
Loving each other, I don't know, though these might very well be loving each other. Now,
Well,
a dog, I agree with. A dog would be a little A.
okay.
You see, it's an animal type.
Yeah.
It's a high level discuss thing, which isn't right. I just said animal,
Yeah.
life form. There are other kind of words, which also you have to work up with your subconscious in terms of, like, what does a life form mean? Believe it or not, to some people, it means a human being. To others, it means anything animal-like. And you work all that out with your subconscious over time.
Okay.
But a dog is close enough that I definitely would give it a little B.
Oh, cool.
I'm
Thanks.
giving
Okay.
you
A little
wow.
B.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And then pickles could
And
be.
others might give it a big B. I don't know. If somebody else wants to chime in, feel free. Let's see what else. You check boat because of the water, but again, I would say that would be a little B.
Okay.
Fresh air, that would probably be A, but definitely a big B. Maybe a
Can you,
little A.
so can I put little A and big B? Can you?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So that's why you judge it against each independently. In other
I,
words, if you look at this one and say, well, this is London or someplace like that. It may not be fresh air, but close enough.
mm-hmm.
An A. And some people might give it a big A. It's a judgment, but you're communicating with your first your subconscious communicated with you.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you would say, well, hey, pretty close. I'm not underwater. Some photo sites might be underwater. So the fact that it's fresh air, I think, should be a little A or a big A.
Okay. What about pickles? Could that be in the cafeteria or in that little restaurant?
I don't think so. I would say that's stretching it, but
Okay.
you're getting my opinion. Again, you need
Yeah.
to work. If you get nothing else from all of this,
Yeah.
you are working out the communication, the language
Yes.
between your subconscious and your conscious mind.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Isn't it? Look
Yeah.
how much came up. I mean, you got water first thing. You have to realize that's terrific because that's the way gestalts typically work.
Oh my.
They
Well,
come up early.
what about those what do you call those ideograms?
Ideograms.
What are they? What are those?
Well, you first tried to do this. Is this what you would say were your ideograms?
Yes, and that one down there too, that third.
Yeah, and they all look very much the same.
Yeah.
They might be a little bit more like pictograms. I don't know what to tell you. There's an awful lot in there where I can see 2 ears or whatever. I don't know. That's the first time you've ever seen it. Remember it. The
Okay.
next time you'll get something else.
Okay.
By looking at other people's sessions, you see what they do.
Okay.
In my mind, the fact that they're closed is unusual.
Huh.
And that might very well mean something. You keep watching them.
Okay.
Okay. Food cooking, that's clearly an A,
Oh wow. Okay. Where's
right?
food cooking? I can't even find it on my.
It's the third one here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, that's an A.
Yeah, that's an A. Though the fact you got birds, that's closer to here. That goes along with dogs. You were picking up animal life.
Yeah.
You congratulations.
Thank you.
Good. There are lots of
Yeah, I know how, I know I'm good at this, but I just, I'm learning how to communicate it with you,
Yeah, well, and what you didn't do, because you don't know how, is to judge it.
Right.
And you see, had you counted the A's and the B's, and I just don't want to take the time to do that,
Right.
you would get those ratios, and
Okay.
then you would look for gestalts. In terms of gestalts, I love the water, and the lake, which is almost what this looks like, more water.
Hmm.
But food cooking, that's pretty good.
Huh. Wow.
But I don't know. If I were to judge this, even a sea serpent, well, of course, with all of our talk of dragons, but
Well, what
nevertheless,
about
that's
that
that's
could be the
water.
fish. That could be a fish, right? Maybe.
Well, yeah, and it's certainly related to be more. I would give this, yeah, I don't know. I would probably give this a B as much as a 4. Anybody else want to chime in? Put in the chat box what you think they should be for A and B. We'll have a vote on this one. You know, it's worth spending time with you as a brand newbie. I love it. And you
Great.
really should feel good about this.
Thank you. I do. I do feel good about this.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'll put this in as Mary Jo. And I would probably give this maybe a 3 and a 4. Well, except for the peaceful, what else do you have? And pickles.
People gathering. Oh, that's it. We got
Yeah,
that.
people gathering. I don't see any flowers. Or maybe you see, like when they're real small in the back, you have to decide for your subconscious if you want to count those. I mean, I do see some flowers there. I would probably give this a 2.5 and a 4. And I see other people are agreeing with the 4 in the chat box. So very good. Thank you. Mary, what should we call you? Mary or Roberta? Are you still there?
Okay, I keep unmuting, muting. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My name is Rosemary Josephine, so I have all these nicknames. I'm sorry.
Okay. What do you like to be called? Though I'll probably
You can call me MJ or Rose. I don't care.
Good. Okay. Anyway, thank you and well done. So this
Oh,
was
thank you.
actually your first session?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I'm so excited. Made my day. Thanks.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see now. Let's do Andrea. Let's see. I think maybe this is one I can rotate. Yes, rotate left. Perfect. So now I just need to get it over half size here. Doesn't want to do that. Small. Do it this way. So bring this one over there. Okay, very good. Andrea, a 1 and a 3. And why don't you, talk to us a little bit about this? And, all I do is give you the best feedback I can, but all of this is up to the individual to work out their own communication channel. And you're on a telephone. I don't know if you can talk or not. You probably can. You can figure it out, but if not, I'll just chat on this for a while. Let's look at the bee stuff. Well, you got fish?
How about this? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, and you got fish. That's pretty darn good.
So I was pretty happy with that. I was kind of surprised because my ego kept wanting to override with this man-made structure that I couldn't tell if it was my ego talking or something else.
And as you do more and more, practice more and more, you'll begin to feel the difference between those. So that's really good that you even recognize that as an issue.
Yeah.
The fish is pretty darn good. I mean, that's like
Yeah, I definitely got fish out of that, and I got a sense of water, which was confusing to me because I also had this idea of this man-made structure. So I was, struggling with, but I'm sensing water, like I was sensing downstream, downhill, rolling, roiling.
When were you doing the
That kind
struggling? When were you doing the struggling? During the session
of,
or during the judging?
during the session. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly during the session. Yeah.
That's your analytical mind, right?
Okay.
You're not
Yeah.
receiving. When that starts happening, this is
Mm-hmm.
where you even use a 1 second rule. Oh, look at that. There, that's happening again. Let's just
Okay.
quiet and let's go down and ignore that. That's definitely not from your subconscious, right? As soon as you
Right.
realize it's not from your subconscious, you can even AOL, or sometimes they'll actually do a stop if it gets to be too bad. But what I would suggest is on the right, just simply
Uh-huh.
say, thinking about it, stop, or something like that.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
acknowledge that it happened. You're human. It
Uh-huh.
happens to all of us. It even happens to Joe McMonagle. He just knows how to handle it, which is what you have to learn, what all
Right.
of us have to learn. But
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you're now aware of it, hopefully next time you'll pick it up and discard it pretty quickly and get back in there.
Okay.
But you did pick up man-made, right? That's the stuff in here.
Yeah.
And
And I really,
yeah.
that obviously I thought related to A because I was white, upright,
Yep.
vertical lines.
Yep. No, the judging is absolutely right. That's very clear. Though the 2 lines, Lila might say might be 2. It's interesting. You only had 2 lines as well. We'll have to all remember that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
And you have a little arch.
Yeah, I found like a rolling, like a rounded surface, but then I saw these 2 upright lines initially, and then I tried to explore them more.
How did those 2 upright lines feel? Not thought about when you did them, what was going on in your mind?
They really seemed very very straight. Just really like projecting upward.
And parallel?
Yeah.
And
I
straight
definitely
and
got
parallel.
the parallel.
Okay, so in your case, you'd have to say it's more like something like this.
That's where I went. Although I thought, you know what, that fish is kind of upright.
Well, the fish is something else.
But I know that's stretching.
You might have looked at both.
Uh-huh.
But breezy also would go with the, yeah, this was a bit of a tough one in terms of I don't think you have this for the structure and all that, and you might even give this as much as a 2 independently. But if you were to take the ratios, which you didn't do, and it's worth doing, I think you would see there are a lot more B's. Then the question comes down, should it be a 3 or a 3.5? And I'm not going to quarrel with your 3.
Yeah.
But I do like fish. you know, and you have to learn how often your subconscious, when it gives you nails a word like that, is it you, hey, forget about everything else and just go with that. Anyway, but again, one time means nothing. That's why this idea of practice, practice, practice is so important. But
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got a kick out of it. Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. Next. Let's close that one. And okay, that was the 3rd one. We did that. Let's do Anita. 6 and a 4, Anita. Okay. that over here. And there. Okay. Why don't you turn on your mic and talk to us?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I got like a Christmas tree shape, which was funny to me because what drew my attention were the lights that I saw. And when I opened, got the feedback picture, or rather the photo sites, the lights in the window immediately hit me. The triangular shape at the top, the oval,
Sure. All of
and
this
the
right
round
here.
lights, yes.
Yeah, all of this right here, I can obviously see that.
Yes.
And I also like, if you don't mind me interrupting you, but for everybody else, you put the G there for Gestalt. Very, very nice. So you saw this as a Gestalt. Is that what the G meant for you?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I got like smoky fumes, the idea of a structural object. Dimension was like oval, but also squarish, the complete structure shape. Taste was dry, so it was definitely a distinction there. Smell, I got smoky, almost like a restaurant. Texture, I got metal plastic paper. Foamolite was interesting because it looks like kind of a coffee shop. Colors, I got red, orange, white, yellow, green, and like print, the board in front of the shop. I got squares. Interesting, I also made contact with other photo site. I got water and I did get like rowing, and the shape almost reminded me of a fish, but obviously most of everything is photo site A.
Well,
And I
right.
got the lamp pole. I got pole at the bottom.
Right. You got this down here. Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
I do see turning.
Yes.
Something turning.
That was. It's almost like I get shapes by motion, by vibration, or something. So it's, I think, more to the oval shape that got my attention.
Well, don't you think this should be a little B at least? Turning motion?
Yes, maybe.
A little B or a big B.
Yes.
Here, and you saw the gestalt of a B. You see, and this is why the numbers are reasonably close. What did you give it first before you erased it?
There at the bottom. The gestalt of the, I gave it.
Yeah, here you gave this a gestalt.
0.75, but then I thought that shape looks a lot like a fish. So I made it my one and see where it ended.
It looks to me, Anita, and I think we've both seen this in your sessions, which is so interesting because you indeed seem to choose often the higher one, but you get high numbers on both.
Yeah, it's like I get both every time, but most of the time, fortunately, the aspects of the more correct one pulls through.
Right. Is enough for you to say, you know what, it's really trying to tell me this, which
Yes,
is an
the
interesting
thing
approach.
is not to sit and reason about it. It's like you say, the 5-second rule. Take what comes first.
Okay, got it. 6 and a 4, and again, I thank you. I don't know if you even want to, you're doing so well, but I don't know if you even want to ask yourself, why are you doing both? Why don't you just give me the one?
I struggle with that.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's what I was going to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so maybe I try too hard.
Yeah, okay. Okay, very good. Thank you, Anita.
Thanks.
And let's go to the next one, which is Anastasia. Are you? Is that Russia or Romania? Are you with me?
Russia.
That's
Russian.
Russia.
Yeah, can you hear me? Because I have to connect from my iPad. My computer's mic is not working correctly.
Yeah, I'm somehow hearing you, even though it shows that you're not. But I hear you fine. So go ahead. It's at my end. My thing is, so why don't you talk to us about this? You gave a 2 and a 3. Okay.
Actually, Marty, I have to. Actually, I would appreciate your advice what to do.
Okay.
I got a ideogram which is perfect for the side B. And the reason is, even if you see as a gestalt is man-made, I was contemplating in between water and something soft, curvy, man-made. And so if I would go with the water, it would be perfect. Natural multiples, which is like rocks, large bio, and water. But I was just, I saw on my, visually, I saw something large, cream, taking place, and I guess my logical mind went to some kind of round columns instead of water.
Yeah.
And I went the wrong way.
Well,
And
by wrong way, you mean you want to change the way you judged it or something?
oh no. I'm just no. During the session, I saw this white white columns, and I was thinking maybe it's water, or maybe it's something round, man-made, you know. So instead of going with the water, I took it to the columns, and then I went with the columns.
Did the column come in? I mean, that was a lot of thinking. Again, that was a lot of analytical stuff.
Exactly, yes.
Right. In fact, in many ways, you could have put water AOL over here and even columns over here if those words came up.
I did as a AOL Greek Old Temple site, so I could.
Right,
Yeah.
I see that.
So I already put, I recognize it must be AOLs.
Right. In terms of trying to give advice, the best I can do now is say, go back into the mindset when this was happening. And did the fact that you went to columns seem to come more from the subconscious, or was it a guess from the analytical mind?
I think it's my analytical mind was trying to make sense of it with white stream, because water came first to my mind when I was doing a ideogram, and I saw this large pieces of cream color and visually, and instead of going with my first impression as the water, I decided to logically trying to make sense of it, and logically this white piece, white large, cream large visual part of the picture, and I took it as columns, something.
Very interesting. I think you've got the basis of more practice, and learning. The fact that you are aware of all that is really important, because while you were going back and forth, what really should have happened, you should have stopped that, simply put down creamy color, right? Because that was the raw impression. Creamy color, it seemed like you got things which look columnar, maybe this shape, and then everything else that happened after that was like AOL. And you did AOL this, and then you could have AOL the water. But what was clear was creamy shape, which might very well have been this, It wasn't white, which could have been easy, but this is, if it's going to be creamy, it would have been that. And yeah, I see your road cream here. And the stone and stuff, you know, did the AOLing come back and influence that? And of course it might have, and we'll never know.
I think it did. I should have set aside, as soon as it declared AOL, I should have set aside as a trash.
Okay, I'm glad you know about the set aside. That's exactly right. That for those of you who don't know CRV context, you can set aside things at the beginning that are going on in your life that you think might interfere. But you can also, during a session, you can do, hey, all of this, set it aside, don't worry about it, and go on. And I think if you had done that a bit sooner, I don't know which way you would have jumped. You know, I don't know if you still would have gotten the columns or not. But the fact that you're aware of all this is major. Just appreciate that, because our discussions now are going down into your subconscious, and you will just continue working all that out.
And, you know, coming back to Lynn Buchanan Monday webinar about importance of ideograms, I'm thinking now I have a strong sense side B is probably like much bigger in my, I would put much bigger score on the side B.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, this ideogram does not look like man-made. It looks natural. It's interesting that you got multiple out of it. And that's kind of really cool if whatever you see or felt in here gave you multiple. And a bio. All of that came out of tapping. I see little dots here, tapping the ideogram.
Yeah. And I saw a large bar. Actually, I put here in description large. So I saw it as a large. I saw it distinctly large.
Large.
And I said, you see after this loop going down, and I was contemplating, it's either water, like stream of fallen water, or you know, man-made, so like roundish man-made. And this is where I made my logical mind took over.
Where did man-made come in? I notice it's last. And it may have come in when you started doubting yourself with the cream and started thinking water, oh, maybe it's man-made, because I don't see any man-made in here. But the first, look at this, BBB. In fact, after we're talking about this, that 3 could easily go to a 3.5, in my opinion. However, there's enough noise in there that I'll leave it that way, unless you tell me you want to change it.
No, I would leave it. It's just, for me, it's a learning experience, but
Exactly.
I wouldn't make a bet on this one.
Okay. And that's perfect attitude. And that's where the practice comes in. Each one of these is just one, you know? And what you want to do is just get better and better, increase your hit rate in ARV terminology, but just get more and more of the targets, which you can use for regular remote viewing as well. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. I'll see you in the conference.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to meeting you. Wow.
Thank you. Bye.
Right. Okay, let's go to Donna. And here we go. Oh, nice. Bring that over. Okay, Donna.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, well, let's dive right in. So the Gestalt there, it's funny because I kind of saw it as a Christmas tree too. And I really focused on that one light, that yellow light. So I got the little dot of light in the yellow right there. And then I went on to see the pole, but it seemed like it was lit to me too, as well. So I don't know kind of where that came from, that wrapping type deal. But of course, there's some smooth parts. And the bending action and the swirl was actually probably more on B.
Right.
There's really no motion there in the other. Let's see. So green, there was a little bit of foliage, and that hit me later. This little, you'll see in the dimensions, I put down that there was hard and then there was foliage there.
Back here.
And it was hard, and it seemed lonely and covered. I kept getting this, like it was man-made covering, like a cover, like you could get under it. So that was the feeling I had. You'll see over here again, man-made, hard.
Yeah.
I even put down flag or sign. I was seeing something with letters on it. I could have put that aside. Oh, and the triangle and the red, that hit me really. I put triangle and then dash red. I felt like there was a lot of red either in the triangle or around it.
Yeah.
And
so this would sort of be the triangle here.
I was thinking more the roof of the roof, that little roof there.
Yep, a good triangle and certainly a lot of red around it. Yep.
So
it's clear that the A is a winner for you.
Yeah, I didn't feel anything biological at all.
Right. The only thing B's, and that's how you marked it, were here.
And there was half a bee somewhere as well, I think. Anyways, it was only a little bee, but yeah, nothing. As soon as I saw that little sitting window area, I had the feeling that's what I was seeing in the initial gestalt, that Christmas tree kind of shape with the yellow light in it. So.
Okay. I get it. And no question that this is right. I mean, yeah, you get a little gestaltish here, but everything else fits together. In fact, is that what that 100 is, a gestalt for A?
Yeah, I didn't really see anything that would make it any better in B. I don't see anything. It just didn't match B at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but swirl and everything, you certainly have to give it a 1.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Maybe
Definitely.
not a 2, but a 1.
Oh, I know. I gave the little bee it was a little sticky, like rubber, and I really couldn't see anything sticky, but a fish could be sticky, slimy, sticky, so I kind of gave it a little B.
Okay. However, I'm going to put down here a 1.
Okay.
For B. You're okay with that?
Yes.
And this shape here is so interesting. I'm looking at it and trying to see what your sub was trying to say. So
I am too, because usually my gestalts are super simple.
So that can be an I.
It could.
Yeah, that could be an I here. Interesting. Okay, you went through it. There's, sometimes we just.
I'm not sure. It was the weirdest gestalt I've ever really drawn, I think.
Yeah, and it's something which you'll now remember, at least at the subconscious level, and maybe it'll give you more hints, more direct.
Well, when we listened to Mr. Buchanan on Monday, he really, with the ideograms, I'm so glad we did it, only for the fact that I do have some, I don't even know if you want to call them gestalts, but I do have some elements that almost all the time when they're there are a certain thing. So I really want to develop this ideogram thing more with the feel and the actual drawing itself to try and guide you to where you're going. Understand the language of the sub and what it's trying to tell you.
That's beautiful. And I really recommend everybody see that. And not only for ideograms. I mean, in talking about ideograms, he was really talking about communication with the subconscious, and he got into so many other things. It was really a great talk with. And the fact that you just said and set your intention so clearly, and just you keep observing and watching, intention, attention, and I expect, and you should expect, that you will learn more and more about this.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. I can see he did open me up to that conversation that happens between the sub and your conscious, and that it's not exactly the language that you are in your waking moments. So it is kind of like learning a little bit of a new language, or, you know, a pictorial language or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's definitely something you need to be aware of and kind of documenting and picking out the ones that stand out to you.
Yep.
So that when they are there, you definitely go, okay, we've been in this one before. This is what I know you're trying to tell me.
Exactly. That's beautiful. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I
guys later.
You got it. Let's, I think, and let me verify that, but I believe that was the last. Yep, that's the last one. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Let me bring over the table I made, and you can tell me if I missed anyone. So here's the table, and I clearly need to find out. I like the fact that you can mark. I just have to figure out how to control it and erase it, because when you guys are talking about it, you can mark on the screen. So these are going to get even better and better as we get better and better with Zoom. Okay, so here is everybody, I believe. If I left anybody out, yep, there you're marking it. I don't know who did that, but you're just touching your screen, right? Or using your mouse. Now, and you figured out how to erase it. Here, erase this little purple dot. No? Okay. Presumably you have an eraser that can do that. Okay, but let's just begin to finish this off now. I'm assuming this is all right. If it's not, forget spelling. Spelling doesn't count in remote viewing or ARV. Sorry about that. But I want to mark everything which is over a 3.5. And I marked the 3.5s themselves as gray, just because I believe what's most important are the ones that are over 3.5. That's the way I do judging. Other people do judging in other ways. So I've been doing this in yellow. And I don't see any 3.5. Let's see if I missed anything. Oh, I missed a 5. So, I'm going to share with you a feeling I had. The first feeling is, oh God, this is another pass. And I tell everybody there's nothing wrong with passes, but I feel just like everybody else, you hate the pass. You want to make a prediction. But I'm acknowledging that. And, what can you really do? These are close. Got a 6 there.
Marty, what's a pass?
On this sheet here, remember how I said you need to put in a 3.5 or higher to say I'm willing to wager on that side, whatever it is, yes or no?
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha, thanks.
Okay, a pass means I'm not willing to wager anything.
Okay.
And this is going to be a good example of how you communicate that there are 2 kinds of passes. This here, the 1 and the 3, and the 2 and the 3, if that was it for the individual, that would be an individual pass. But notice, Anita, and I recommend people go with their own predictions. You're teaching your sub that you trust yourself. Okay? And yeah, you know you're going to get a miss sometimes, but I want to trust my sub. I want to know that can trust my sub. I want to build up this communication channel. When you get misses, there's more to learn than from the hits. I mean, that's the proper mindset, in my opinion. And I think it makes sense. It isn't like, you know, I think you would agree. If you're going to work out something with your subconscious, you treat it as a friend. You're intimately connected, that's certainly for sure. And you want to work with it. And so if this were something which would be waging, I'd expect Anita to go with whatever yes-nos associated with CRA. I expect Lila to go with CRB, and that's perfectly okay. But one of the things I've been trying to do is see if I can figure out how to get more information from groups. And, you know, had this been 6 on this side and 1 on this side, you know, I would go with CRB. And even that, it doesn't work 100%. And I've asked my sub why, and I haven't gotten a good answer yet. So groups have its complexities as well. This whole thing with consciousness has a lot of mysteries yet. But one of the things I think which is not a mystery is that it's a personal communication channel, and for whatever reason, you should trust yourself. Now, in this case, as the group manager working to try to make sense out of groups, group prediction is a pass. Okay? So this gives me an opportunity to show you how you would do this here. You know, if it was low numbers, I would just put in low numbers. But the other way you get a pass is if you put the same on both sides. And I think in this case, CR of 5, which is excellent, and a CR of 5. So what this says, as opposed to this being a 2 and a 3, which says they both really didn't have good matches, and that's why I'm passing. In this case, what I'm saying is there were good transcripts on both sides, but I couldn't choose one over the other as the group manager, so this will give me a pass if they're the same. And sometimes I actually recommend when the numbers are close, like if this had been a 4.5 and a 4, I probably would pass. We love them when they're far apart because that says the two pictures were different enough and the subconscious picked the target. What it's saying is the target. Okay, so here I'm going to say good transcripts, and you should write whatever your feeling is, good transcripts on both sides, comma, so pass. I might even say, yeah, I wish I could paste all of those in there, but they'll all be in the video, and maybe that's enough. So, but you should usually write more. Okay, so maybe I need to as an example. So, for example, you might say 3 CRAs. And we can even give them 3. Yeah, let's just do that. 3 CRA 4.5, 5, and 6. Yeah, that works. For the group webinar, CRB of 5, 5, and 4, 4. Feeling is that this is a pass for what? This is a pass. Okay, so I repeated myself, but I experienced the reluctance of a pass, but know it is the right thing to do. So this will actually go into the server, and whenever I choose to review what I did with the webinar workshop group, that'll be in there. And that goes for you too. These notes are really for you to go back later and be able to review to get better and better and better as you practice, practice, practice. Then all you do is hit submit. So you can see the technical details are very simple. The magic is where you should spend your time on the remote viewing, lots of time on feedback and judging. So you can see it's a pass because these two are the same. This is what I wrote here, but we do now indicate for the first time, because the computer was the only one that knew, that photosite A was randomly associated with no in this case. Photosite B was yes. So that's of interest if anybody wants to turn this into trading, you know. So will it be over 24,000, which is where it is now? And I guess I can show you a little more. But I think you understand that it's right after you finish your judging, that's the only time you really know now whether the answer to the question is yes or no, over, under, financials, up or down, that sort of thing. And okay, so how do you put your CRs in? We just did this. We gave no front loading, but here was the 24,000, which was the question. Will the Dow Jones Industrial Average close over 24,000 on June 4th, a month basically, and 2 days from now? So these predictions that we do in this group are all a month long, and we don't know. And trading on this is difficult because we didn't indicate at all how much. With the financials, when we do them with a day, I've set it up with stop and limits, so within a day, you almost always hit it. But with a month long, that's not easy to do. Okay, just a little bit to close this. I really believe that the word spirituality works here, because I know for me, when I get these really good sessions and really insights, they are coming from that deepest part of me that's connected with this universe of collective consciousness. That's the way I think about it. And to be connected to that is like, it's not my mind, my intellectual mind that's doing it. It's something deeper, something that I'm willing to call my soul, my spirit, whatever. And it turns out that several months ago, Nancy Scooter, Joe's wife, and she's the president and executive director of the Monroe Institute, which is TMI, which is a wonderful place that have great programs. Anyway, she was asked to give a definition of spirituality. And I just like it so much, I've been putting it in things more and more for a while at least. Spirituality, so these are her words, spirituality references the metaphysical, that which goes beyond the material, mundane world. It includes a conscious sense of that which is greater than the individual, egocentric self. So it's greater than the way you usually think of yourself as an individual, and embraces a connection to a unifying principle and all that is. Spirituality is about how we perceive, connect with, and bring this greater unifying principle into our lives. It's about consciously living from a more transcendent space of love, gratitude, kindness, compassion, non-judgment, inclusiveness, respect, and honor for all beings, resulting in a perception and experience of the profound sanctity and interconnectedness in all of life. I just think that's so beautiful. And I believe that that's going to be a central feature of the consciousness paradigm shift that we are now going through. We've been going through it for a long time, but I really believe we're going to be able to see the other end of that, because of the kind of stuff which is becoming more and more public within society. And I hope that we, in fact, will begin sharing this image of what a consciousness paradigm shift means with more and more people, that it's indeed spiritual. And this now is my final one, which I guess I'm using all the time, because it brings together the three really important things that I believe all of this will allow us both as individuals and as society to have. That's health, wealth, and wisdom. And wealth, the original word, really means sharing your resources with the larger community. And I believe that's an important part of what we're doing. You really do have to feel good about this work we're doing, this ARVing, that it's going to lead to something really, really good. A lot of people pledge 10% or so of whatever they earn when they get into the financial world to a charity, so that they feel very comfortable that what they're doing is good. It's enough for me just to know I'm doing a lot of education, and that's what I want to put any financial stuff that comes back into. Okay, I thank you. I couldn't be doing this without people coming and listening. So thank you all. Questions or comments?
Wow, I'm just amazed. Thank you so much for my first RV and my first communication with you, with all the other people. It's just amazing. And I just want to say thanks.
Well, you're welcome. And again, thank you for joining us here. Other comments?
I can hardly wait for the next one.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and I am seeing the comments. So again, thank you, and I will end this now, and it will be recorded. So all of you, keep precogging.